So let's talk about this now. So a lot of people want to color hair lighter and they say, can I color it? And I'm always careful to ask, what color were you hoping to color it? And when they name a color lighter, I'll say, because even my office staff who are not trained, licensed cosmetologists will have to answer these questions sometimes. And I always tell them, be careful how you answer that question. Make sure you mention you can most likely, probably easily go a little to a lot darker, but rarely can you lighten it. And I would recommend not trying it at all, but you might be able to just knock the edge off with a little bit of a light bleach shampoo type of bath if you need to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just order lighter hair. So let's talk about lightening it. Why can you not lighten extensions and you can darken them?
Okay, that barrier so first of all, the no no okay, the barrier that's created to seal in that textile dye, to our eyes we don't see it, but if you were to put it under a microscope, it's a pretty thick barrier. It has to lock that color in, and it's got to give that reflective shine when light hits it. That's why hair extensions always look so nice and shiny. So first, you got to break through that barrier. Well, that takes time. And that can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes just to get through that first layer. Then you've hit the color, the textile dye. And I have to keep saying that because it is not normal hair color.
Right.
And breaking through, so coloring regular hair color can take anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. Right. On average. I'm just saying average.
Right.
A textile dye can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour.
Or days. It's good. I'm glad you brought that up. Little side note real quick. The big difference in why extensions can be changed in color so much and still be healthy is they're not limited by time constraints.
Yeah.
They can take hours and hours to slowly and much more healthily just slowly remove the color. And the faster you go, the more damaging in both directions. But if you can take hours to remove color, and then if you can put color in, even if it's staining, slowly and let it air dry over days or in warming rooms, you just can't do that on a real person. That's why it's not practical in the salon. People have to get home to their kids and their husbands and dinner. But hair that's just sitting around in a factory has time if the company wants to do it right. So that's just a little side note of why hair can be healthily lifted and deposited upon over lots and lots of time. So I like what you're saying about the busting through with the bleach. That's one of the
and a bleach and a lightener is only active as long as the moisture in that product can remain, as over time. Yeah, because every 5 minutes, every 3 to 5 minutes, you start losing a level of moisture. So your product starts drying out. And the more it dries out, the less potent it gets. Well, if you need 20, 30 minutes just to get through the first layer, and then you need another half hour, an hour to get through the second layer, just to do anything, how are you going to keep your lightener active, or how are you going to keep your bleach active for an hour and a half to 2 hours? And most people don't sit there and babysit the product. They don't sit there with oil or with water or with some kind of additive to keep, reactivating that lightener. They just slap it on there. They throw them under a dryer, which is the worst thing you can do. And then it dries it out even more. Well, forget about it. I'm going to go on a tangent. But, most people don't babysit. Say again?
A plastic cap.
A plastic cap. I purposely went to the dollar store and bought scuba gear, and just to prove a point, when you put the plastic cap on there, it seals, it creates a vacuum seal, and there's no return air coming back in for fresh. So then people punch holes in it to let the steam out, but there's no fresh return air coming back in. So I went and bought a snorkel thing from the dollar store just to prove a point that, how are you breathing? There's no breathing going on in there. So
just have them put the plastic cap all the way down to here. You know, that would prove the point too.
I would love to on some clients, but no, you don't do that.
You do it on the hairdressers to show them. Let me show you why you can't put a plastic cap over bleach, and then put it over their mouth and nose. And
Oh yeah, well, I'd like to do that to some people too, but no, you can't do like that.
So that's a good point. You possibly could bleach hair extensions or lighten or tone in a going up direction, but it would take so much time. It's unpractical. The other thing is very inconsistent because you don't know what level they had lifted it to before they put the color on there. So and textile dyes don't react the same as we're used to working with. We are used to working with bleaching. We already say that color doesn't lift color, so you have to use bleach to lift color, and then we still don't love doing it. We don't like taking somebody from fantasy colors or black that are humans with color. We don't like taking them from dark to lighter. So why would we want to do it on extensions or textile dyes?
And there's one, and then there's one other thing that a lot of people don't think about. When we're lifting, when we're lightening, we go through the contributing pigments. We go through the levels of lift, right?
There's 7.
And so yeah, you start from darkest brown to red brown to red orange, yellow, gold, palest yellow. You go through all of that because you have those 3 primary pigments, red, yellow, and blue, in the hair. So you're naturally progressing through those stages of lightening and lift. But in a textile dye, that doesn't exist. Also, contrary to belief, hair extensions still have porosity because they still have a cuticle on them. Right. So, and the cortex was never destroyed. Only, if anything, the cuticle gets removed. So hair extensions still have a layer of porosity to them as well. And when we're trying to break through that textile dye, you, just like natural hair, if a woman has a hair down to halfway down her chest, and the bottom half might lighten one way, the mid shaft might lighten something else, the new growth might lighten something else. Hair extension is going to do the same thing. There's no guarantee just because you did everything perfect and you got a consistent application. There's still no guarantee that you're going to lighten evenly all the way through. And there is there's no contributing pigment to guesswork on how that's going to lift. So you might get a band that does nothing. You might get a band that turns white, and might get a band that turns into, spin the wheel and pick what it falls on. You're playing roulette.
It's such a great point because you're talking about bands, but the hair is also randomly selected from multiple donors, and so the bands aren't all in the same area on extensions. So one person's hair, depending on the length too, if you're dealing with shorter hair, you don't know if that came from the ends of a person's head or the top half of a person's head. Might be the bottom of one person's head, the top of another. They were put together to make that 10-inch hair, and so now your bands aren't all going to be. It's not going to be a nice even band that you can go back in and re-bleach the dark bands. Man, I never even thought in that much detail and depth about coloring extensions. You're right. The ends are.
It's been a lot of pain. I've gone through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of mistakes.